Annyeonghaseyo, this is meowmurai. Let's continue our game of Despera Drops running on Nintendo Switch 2.
世界を革命してみせましょう。
来るの遅いよ。
これでいいか。
ったく、そんな顔されたら反論できないじゃん。オーケー、わかったよ。それじゃ、ちゃんと見ててくれよ。
Ram raised the hood of his jacket and concealed his face before he hopped onto his feet from the bench. He removed his waist bag and placed it on the ground. Then he clapped his hands and began attracting the attention of the passerby.
さーて、寄ってらっしゃい、見てらっしゃい。本場フランス仕込みのパルクールだよ。
Tourists began to stop and look. Their interest piqued. From within the circle that formed, Rami kicked off from the ground and somersaulted. His spectacular movement earned a wave of commotion.
見て見て、大道芸だ。へえ、見事なもんだな。
Ram ran around and balanced in precarious places such as stairs and handrails while he continuously performed maneuvers like cartwheels or backflips. He did so effortlessly. He looked like a fairy. Even though his actions were risky, his landings were so stable that they didn't arouse any anxiety. Crystal was entranced by Ram's show. There was a faint flush in his cheeks as she gripped her hands into tight fists. Sending a wink in her direction, Rami grinned.
やった!
Successive somersaults, handstands, walking upside down on his hands. Rami made full use of his extraordinary athletic abilities and showed off all kinds of moves. At the very end, he landed a beautiful somersault and tied up his show with a deep bow. Immediately, there was an enthusiastic applause.
Bravo!
One coin after another was tossed into Rami's waist bag that he'd left on the ground.
Merci! Grazie! Thank you!
Waving to the tourists, Rami collected his waist bag with money before returning to where Crystal and I were.
どうだった?クリステル。
Moved, Crystal earnestly clapped her hands over and over again. Of course, I was doing the same.
タミー君、すごいね。
まあね。これまでも大道芸で稼ぐこともあったしさ。ま、僕にかかればこんなもんだよ。
Seeing how emotional Crystal was, Rami's grin turned sheepish, but then he let out a gasp of realization.
やべ、ジブに目立つなって言われてたんだった。
Yeah. I was so captivated that I'd forgotten that warning completely. The two of us looked at each other before bursting into laughter.
大道芸したことは3人だけの内緒な。
Crystal nodded firmly. There was no longer any stiffness or tension in her expression. After that, the three of us walked side by side to return to the hostel. Switzerland, Lugano, July 28th, 2028, 2303, Friday, hostel. Once Crystal exhausted from a day of playing, she fell asleep. We launched into a second investigation on her. If she was kidnapped by Chancellor, why had he tried to make me read her mind? What was Crown's goal? Crystal's identity could be the key.
って言っても手がかりもなんもないよな。住んでたところもどこかわかんないみたいだし。
以前レベッカさんと一緒に調べた時、行方不明事件の被害者の中には見当たりませんでした。と言っても急いでたので見逃した可能性はありますが。
行方不明者のデータベースで照合した方が良さそうだな。サリー、クリステルらしい人物がいないか調べられるか。
できるかも。待ってね。
Gibb pulled up the list of missing people that the police published. Sally snapped a photo of Crystal and began typing away. After a tap on the enter key, photos of all kinds of people flashed before disappearing. She'd run a program on her laptop to compare photos for a match. This was a more accurate and swift method compared to what I'd done with Rebecca. I wonder how Rebecca's doing now. Her social media was suspended. We knew she was fine since she appeared on TV, but I still worried she'd be targeted because she went to Crown's Castle. I thought about contacting her, but immediately nipped the idea in the bud. I'd gone against our agreement. She must be mad at me. Sometime later, the flurry of motion on Sally's screen stopped. It displayed the message, "No matches found."
行方不明者ではないようだな。
じゃあ
This time, Sally began checking whether there were any photos similar to Crystal on the internet. There was a lengthy wait before one extremely blurry photo showed up as a match, but it was so small that we couldn't tell whether it was Crystal.
何これ、天使の声を聞いた奇跡の少女？
Rami read the headline out loud, and all of us shared a look.
ずいぶんうさんくさい見出しだな。こいつは雑誌の切り抜きか何かの画像か？他の字は読めないな。
It felt as if we were only one step short from the truth, and everyone leaned forward eagerly. That was when my phone rang.
誰だ？
Rebecca's name was displayed on my screen. When I showed it to the others, they all tensed up.
ちょうどいい。出てやれ。いい情報源だ。
だが、我々にも聞こえるようにしてくれ。
はい。
After tapping on the accept button, I switched to speakerphone.
ああ、よかった。出てくれた。
レベッカさん、ご無事でよかったです。
もっと早く連絡したかったんだけど、いろいろごたごたしちゃってて。どう？無事逃げられた？
はい。レベッカさんは
無事よ。SNS アカウントも復旧させたんだから。で、ちょっと落ち着いたから連絡したってわけ。それより、彼らもそこで聞いてるんでしょ？あなたたち、うちの車がパンクしている間にさっさとどっか行っちゃうんだもの。白状すぎない？
ごめんなさい、レベッカさん。私、
タイヤのパンクはよくあることよ。まあ、警察も追ってきていたし、あの場では仕方ないわね。
It sounded like Rebecca knew exactly who'd shot her tire, but deliberately chose not to point it out.
すまなかった。
あら、やっぱりあなたたちもそこにいるんじゃない。早速取材をって言いたいところなんだけど、今日はまず連れて逃げた女の子のことを話したくてね。
何か分かったのか？
いいえ、まだ全然。だから調べてみようと思って連絡したのよ。写真とかもらえないかしら。
I looked at everyone else, wondering whether it was all right. Gave me a silent nod.
わかりました。後で写真を送りますが、くれぐれもメディアには出さないでください。
大丈夫。そのあたりは心得てるわ。
ところでレベッカさん、天使の声を聞いた奇跡の少女って知ってますか？
天使の声を聞いた奇跡の少女？どこかで聞いたことがあるような気がするけれど、それがどうかしたの？
多分その子なんです。私たちが連れてきた子は。
なるほどね。わかった。当時のニュースが残ってないかちょっと調べてみるわ。じゃあ写真待ってるわよ。
That signaled the unexpectedly quick end of our call. She hadn't particularly brought up how I had agreed to persuade everyone to be interviewed.
なんか意外といい人だったりする？
正義感は強いだろうからな。真実を追うために何を優先すべきかを切り離して考えられるのだろう。
それに取材対象に逃げられるのは日常茶飯事だろ。反応があるだけ俺らは親切なんじゃないか？
そんなものですか?
Maybe he's right. We chatted while I forwarded the photo of Crystal to Rebecca. A few minutes later, there was a reply.
これは
The link Rebecca sent in her text was a news report video on a girl who claimed to have heard the voice of an angel, the same headline we found earlier. Apparently, it was an archived video from a TV station. Crystal looked about 5 in the video. It reported that when archaeologists searched an area she pointed to, they discovered an unexcavated underground church. Crystal stated that she only pointed there because she'd overheard an angel's voice, and for a time she was glorified as an oracle. In her text, Rebecca said that all the materials connected with this news report had been lost and she couldn't find any further details. Well, what a surprise.
天使のお告げか。
それがハイリガーと呼ばれるゆえんですか。
だがそういった偶然がまるでないこともないだろう。幼い子供だったから周りが騒ぎ立てて必要以上に神聖視しただけという話ではないのか。
With nothing left to say, we turned to look at Crystal, her face contorted with distress as she slept. Oh, that's too bad. She looked far from peaceful. We traded worried glances.
このニュースになった頃は喋れてたんだな。
むしろこれで騒がれて喋れなくなっちゃったのかな。
他にも色々とありそうだがな。それにこのニュースの資料を紛失したというのも気になりますね。
ちょっと調べてみるよ。
Sally faced her laptop and resumed researching, but after a while, her hands tapping away at her keyboard abruptly stilled.
これ意図的にデータが操作されてるかも。当時のニュースの動画や検証サイトの痕跡はあるけど、ことごとく削除されてる。
I know, this is the ultimate worst vacation, or the best vacation.
クラウンの仕業ということか。
だろうね。一度ネットにアップされた情報を完全に消すのって難しいのに、かなり周到な仕事だよ。
This wasn't the only time they had manipulated and almost fully scrubbed someone's past from the world. Dread and hot fury hung over me. I recalled the time I spent with Crystal today. Though we did manage to get her to smile eventually, it wasn't easy. Her baseline state was fear. She had shrunk into herself, fearing that pursuers might bring her back to the castle. I hope that one day she could find her voice again. I hope that I had a chance to hear her laugh. Not just to gain information, I truly wished for her to arrive at a brighter future. For a while after that, we spent our days in peace. As fugitives, calling it peace maybe wasn't too accurate, but it was a calm period where neither the police nor Crown were actively hunting us. The news reported on the kidnapping over and over. It was evident that Crystal was extremely important to Crown. We avoided conspicuous actions as much as we could, so that we could remain hidden from the public. We hunkered down in Lugano. We collectively decided that rather than dragging a young girl like Crystal from place to place, staying in one area was better. Whether we ran or stayed, though, something necessary for survival would always deplete with time our funds, which were gradually running low. Switzerland, Lugano, July 31st, 2028, 21:41 Monday, hostel.
ハミー君たち勝ったかな。
Today was yet another day of Hamill heading out to the casino to procure funds for us all. Gib and Ash had gone with him. Lugano didn't have unlicensed casinos like Milan, so they went to a casino along Lake Lugano's shores aimed at everyday folks.
普通のカジノなので、やばい裏カジノみたいに店側にイカサマされる心配はありませんが、大勝ちもしにくいと言ってましたね。
むしろハミエルの方がヤバい客だけどね。でも普通のちゃんとしたカジノの方がイカサマしにくいから大変なんだよな。やっぱ僕も行った方が良かったんじゃないかな。
でもドレスコードがありますから、その格好では入れないみたいですよ。
だからってハミー君はともかく
パパさんとアッシュ君って大丈夫なのかな。パパさんって意外と頑固なとこあるし、アッシュ君なんて見るからに運悪そうじゃない？
そうですね。僕も行きましょうかと言ったのですが、お金の価値が分かってないやつはダメだと。
カミュ君ってば、いきなり全額かけちゃうとか、お金の使い方がめちゃくちゃだもんね。
ハミエルさんがいるから大丈夫だとは思うけど、なんとか買ってきてくれるといいな。食費もだいぶ少なくなってきたし。
そんなこと言ってミカってば本当にママみたいだな。
I mean, Mika is basically a mom.
わかる。サリーも甘えたくなっちゃうもん。あ、だからクリステルも懐いてるのかな。
Really? Even now, Crystal was staring into space, as if listening to the voice of an angel. Her gaze was so distant that I started becoming anxious, feeling as if she might disappear. Just as I thought about to approach and call out to her, Camu, who'd been looking at his phone, sitting on his bed, whipped his head up.
これ見てください。明日ルガノでデモがあるみたいですよ。予告が出てます。
What Camu showed me was a social media post. The text stated it was recruiting participants and it had tons of reposts.
またデモやんの？そんなことやってなんか意味あるのかな？
確かにデモをすることが目的になってそうですからね。ですが、こういった不穏な空気というのは意味もなく勝手に伝染していきますから怖いですよ。
That was when Crystal suddenly stood up and opened the door. Only a few seconds later, Hamil and the others walked through. I felt like I'd witnessed her miraculous foresight, and I traded glances with Camu.
今戻った。
なんだ、出迎えてくれたのか。ありがとな。
The corners of Crystal's eyes softened with joy from the attention and gratitude of the two men. She seemed to have grown attached to us. With her around, the atmosphere became harmonious in the blink of an eye.
やっと帰ってきた。僕もう腹ペコなんだけど。
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe the protest is something that that the organization is setting up, right? In order to get them out in the public.
もうすぐご飯できるから、もう少し待っててね。ハミエルさんたちも座っててください。
I was making the finishing touches in the kitchen when Crystal came over and helped me carry cutlery and the ready dishes onto the table.
クリステル、手伝ってくれてありがとう。
Once again, Crystal looked overjoyed. She had yet to speak out aloud, but I felt that she'd become much more expressive. In the beginning, she always looked apathetic, but now she'd show us happiness or sullenness. She felt safe enough to open up and emote. Furthermore, she stopped fearing my hands. When she was trying to not get lost or had a nightmare, Crystal would reach out to hold my hands for comfort. The only emotions I'd sensed from her were panic and loneliness, but at times I also sensed her relief. I still didn't know what Crown wanted me to see, but nevertheless, I was elated that she was willing to hold my hand.
では、いただくとしようか。
Once I transferred all the food to the dining table, we ate and enjoyed our dinner together. 8 was a crowd, yet it oddly wasn't awkward or uncomfortable. Having everyone here with me for all these mundane moments made me feel at ease.
それでカジノはどうだった？儲かった？
ああ、俺は問題なかったけどな。アッシュと旦那については、わかるだろ。
いいや、あそこは絶対に7を待つべき状況だった。途中で方針を変える方がリスクが高いからな。
いや、それでも10回連続で負けたら、その方針とやらも曲げてもらいたかったんだけどな。
俺はかけた方と必ず逆の目が出た。あの店イカサマじゃないのか。
いや、周りのやつは勝っていたし、むしろ途中からは他の客が アッシュの逆にかければ勝てるって気づいてたからな。
何それ。兄貴ってば逆にすごい才能あるんじゃね？
俺だけ負けるのは納得いかねえ。
そう言ってお前が暴れ出しそうだったから、こちらはヒヤヒヤさせられたがな。
ちょっとテーブルを叩いたくらいで警備が来るとか、どんな上品な店だよ。
Yeah, Ash is certainly not the lucky type.
というわけで、俺が勝った分は2人が負けてくれたおかげで、トータルではちょっとプラスってとこだ。
Yeah, like you, I do feel like something really bad is going to happen since things have been like so peaceful.
面目ない。
次は必ず勝つ。
Ash isn't going to win.
まあ勝負は時の運ですから、大負けじゃなかったですし大丈夫ですよ。
Though I tried my very best to cheer them up, misery has settled over the dining table. Kamu tried to help by changing the topic.
そういえば明日デモがあるみたいです。外は出歩かない方がいいかもしれませんね。
カジノでもそんな話をしている客がいたな。街の中も警備が増えそうだし、おとなしくしていた方がいいだろう。
Oh, we're staying put. That means that they could try to find us since we don't want to leave all in one place, right?
でもか。暴動にならないといいけどな。
The heavy atmosphere had brought even Crystal's mood down. Sally gave her head a good pat.
大丈夫。ここにいれば安全だよ。
そうだな。食料も買い出ししてあるし、明日は引きこもって休むとしよう。
That was the topic of conversation as we ended our meal. I headed to the sink with Gib, intent on not leaving all the work for him, and Crystal followed.
クリステル、ありがとう。
She smiled sweetly and helped me in every way she could. Gib looked at the others and tissed.
まったく。お前たちも食べてすぐ寝そべるんじゃなくて、二人を見習ったらどうだ。
俺らが行ったらかえって狭くなるだろ。俺なりの気遣いだよ。
サリー、お腹いっぱいで動けないんだもん。
それにほら、先にシャワー浴びないと順番待ちになるじゃん。
Everyone did their own thing, such as heading off to wash or sprawling on their beds. They were completely at home. It was hard to believe that we'd once been so wary around each other.
まったく、仕方がないな。
When I came back from washing the dishes, I spotted Crystal alone in one corner, reaching her hand into the air with a blank face, daydreaming. I wonder what's wrong with her. I didn't know whether I should interrupt her, so I ended up standing still at a loss. Kamu and Gib also traded glances after seeing her in that state.
天使が見えてるんでしょうかね。
天使の声を聞いた奇跡の少女か。
Even now, we didn't know how Crown had abused her power. Though Rebecca was trying to investigate through her own channels, she'd vented to me that most of it had been covered up, and she was no closer to the truth. We hadn't heard from Rebecca since then. Judging by the TV, she was busy with her day job reporting. There were heaps of news she had to report. Neither had Carlos shown up or contacted us after that day. But knowing him, he must have been going around investigating all kinds of things. Maybe it would be a good idea to reach out to him tomorrow and ask whether he'd made any progress.
でもどうしてクリステルなんでしょうね。未来予知とか占いとかそういうことができる人は大勢いますが。
Kamu brought up various occult articles on his phone and showed them to us. Urban legend-like stories were shared from all over the globe about people who apparently had supernatural abilities. Among them, there were numerous ones who claimed to have the ability to see human emotions, just like me. That was why I didn't understand it either. Why had they chosen Crystal and me out of all of them? Crystal was staring intently at something I couldn't see. Her profile looked mysterious, and I wasn't able to laugh off her title of saint as a lie. I was the last to shower. When I returned to the room, everyone else was already sound asleep. I heard steady breathing and intermittent sleep talk. Within those quiet sounds, I found Crystal sitting on my bed.
クリステル、どうしたの?
She was asleep when I'd gone off to take a shower. Had something woken her? As soon as I sat down next to her, she threw her arms around me. Imploring eyes looked up at me. Perhaps she'd had a nightmare. For a moment, I thought I'd heard her say, Mama. She was pleading for attention and someone to lean on with her eyes. I rubbed her back and smiled.
もしかして一緒に寝たいの?
She nodded.
わかった。じゃあ一緒に寝よっか。
We lay down on the same bed together, and Crystal happily buried her face in my chest. The tension in her expression melted away with a soft smile. She breathed out with relief. Was I able to serve as a place of respite and security for her? I would be glad if I was. Thinking that, I stroked her hair. As I kept stroking her head, she fell asleep in the blink of an eye. She looked like she was at peace. Not so long ago, she'd slept fitfully, breathing shallowly, but it was different now. Praying that she'd managed to get a good rest until the morning, I closed my eyes as well. Her body was warm like a hearth. She reassured me as much as I reassured her. A thunderous explosion tore me from my sleep. Oh, here we go. Everyone jumped onto their feet, startled by the nearby noise. Immediately, Ram ran over to the window and checked on the situation.
下の階から煙が出てるんだけど、これやばいんじゃね?
何があった?事故か?
わかりませんが。
Yeah, it wasn't camo this time.
あんたら逃げとくれ。さっきの爆発、この建物の1階であったんだよ。火がついたんだ。早く非常階段から逃げとくれ。
Switzerland, August 1st, Lugano, 2028, 12:41 a.m., Tuesday, Piazza della Riforma. We fled from the hostel and entered the plaza to discover a big crowd of people running frantically. When I raised my head, I saw the fire spreading up to the floor we'd been on moments ago.
なんでこんな。
1階の店が襲撃されたみたいですね。
Kamu, who'd been checking his phone, showed us a post on social media. It stated that rioters had rushed into the shop on the first floor of the hostel building. Mass layoffs were reported as the potential reason.
リストラ?
ああ、そういや、俺らが泊まってたドミトリーの1階に入ってた店が大規模なリストラをやったってニュースでやってたな。
1階に入ってたのって有名な洋服ブランドだったよね。そんな業績悪かったんだっけ？
いい迷惑だな。
てか燃やしても何も解決しなくない？
腹いせにというやつだろう。
こうなってくると、明日のデモも激しいものになりそうですね。ルガノから出ましょうか。
Crystal seemed to still be half asleep because she was nodding off while gripping onto my skirt. Sally next to her was also letting out a big yawn. It was still far from daybreak. If we left the city right now, we'd likely end up driving all night. But since the hostel had gone up in flames, we didn't have much choice. We were walking towards our vehicles in resignation when Crystal stiffened with a start. Color drained from her face as she fixed her gaze on one place, and there stood those agents in black.
いたぞ、ハイリガーだ。確保しろ。こちらルガノ、リフォルマ広場。ハイリガーを発見いたしました。
くそ、なんであいつらが。おびき出されたってわけか。
わからんが、急いで逃げるぞ。
I could hear fire truck sirens in the distance. We ran frantically, surrounded by the chaotic noises of rioting. We dashed through alleyways and tried to shake off our pursuers in the darkness, but the agents followed around every corner, always just a step behind us. Gradually, we were cornered. In our attempt to escape, they gradually shepherded us towards the highest point in the city, cutting off our routes. If that wasn't enough, our two worst nightmares were waiting for us, child nurse and house steward. We knew that they'd guided us here on purpose, but it was already too late.
さあ入りが子供は寝る時間よ。
そろそろご帰宅願いましょうか。無論お嬢様もご一緒に。
くそ。
And so the battle at the plaza, and so began the battle at the plaza with no escape. Ash and Gibb faced off against Child Nurse and House Steward armed with only their brawn. But the agents here too surrounded us.
気をつけろ。連中ナイフを持っている。
Rom kicked down the knives they threw. As the ferocious battle heated up, Hamiel tried to guide Crystal, Sally, and me to safety.
おい、こっちだ。
The four of us ran together, trying to escape, but another group of agents blocked our way.
俺は戦闘向きじゃないんだがな。
女の子にひどいことしちゃダメなんだから。
The men had dropped into fighting stances, but Hamiel and Sally fended them off. Taking Crystal's hand, I ran as fast as my legs could carry me, but suddenly Crystal's head jerked backward. One of the agents had grabbed Crystal's hair. He pulled hard, forcing Crystal to stagger. He handled her so roughly, like trash. I saw red. I reached out, trying to take Crystal back, but the man beat me to the punch. He wound his arm around her neck, securing her in a Nelson hold.
入り側を確保した。一時撤退を命令する。
Crystal resisted desperately, but the man didn't even budge.
入りが。汚れた罪人に誘惑されてはなりません。あなたは堕落してはならないのです。役目を放棄してはなりません。車を。
I could hear a car approaching. I could hear a car approaching. I don't know why it's such a difficult sentence. The men were about to kidnap Crystal. Despair filled her face. I couldn't let this happen. I couldn't let them take Crystal away. My body was screaming at me. If Crystal returned to that place, she'd never be able to leave again. I didn't exactly have a plan. Recklessly, I rammed into the man who was seizing Crystal and shoved him away. He must have let his guard down because he tumbled backwards as he collapsed. Freed from the man's clutches, Crystal broke into a sprint. I put myself between her and the men who reached out their hands, trying to capture her again. Seeing her hesitation, I turned around to give her an encouraging push in the back. But in that instant, a sharp pain pierced my body. I didn't know what had happened. My body stopped responding. I couldn't breathe. My hand that had reached out to Crystal convulsed and stopped moving. Heat and pain ran through my body. What was going on?
Mika!
Moments before my frozen body collapsed, I saw Crystal reaching for me. Her eyes were filled with tears as she opened her mouth. Ooh, she spoke. The first thing I ever heard Crystal say was my name. She called out for me, yet.
入り側を今度こそ確保しました。離脱します。
The man yanked Crystal's body into his arms. Fanned by the wind, her silky hair fluttered and faded away. Our extended hands couldn't bridge the gap. They were going to take Crystal away.
Mika, しっかりしろ。
As my consciousness faded, I could make out everyone running over to me. I'm okay, I whispered in my mind. It hurt, but I was sure it wasn't a lethal wound. Chase after Crystal, I wanted to tell them, but my mouth wouldn't respond. I wanted at least to call out her name too, but I couldn't even work up a whisper. She was crying. I wanted to say that everything was all right, that I was going to protect her. But that wasn't possible anymore. Oh, this sounds serious. Chapter 12, The Crown. Unknown Unknown, August 1st, 2028, 7:02 Tuesday, Road. I opened my eyes and found myself on a roadway somewhere. They had laid me down on the back seat of the parked cabriolet. Morning sun shone upon me.
目を覚ましたか。
When they heard Gib, the others all came over to me.
お姉ちゃん、よかった。
よかった。目を覚まして。心配したんだからな。
ここは私。
テーザー銃で撃たれたんだ。覚えていないか。
Oh, okay. It's at least a taser. I thought maybe they stabbed her. I was like, oh, jeez.
テーザー銃。
発射した針で対象をしびれさせるスタンガンみたいなものだ。外傷はほとんどないが、痛くないか。
I've been hit by those things more than once. It was much worse when I was skinnier. It really hurts you if you don't have any body fat at all.
はい。痛みはないですが。
Someday I'll talk about those circumstances. Just before I asked why, I recalled what had happened before I fainted. I was trying to...
クリステルは
I hurriedly sat up. Hamil, who was sitting on the bike next to the cabriolet, shook his head with chagrin.
あいつらに捕まったよ。俺らが逃げるだけで精一杯だった。
This can't be happening. Crystal was captured by Crown, even though she was so frightened at the idea of going back. I felt as if my vision was blackening into an inky darkness. Despair crushed me down. I wasn't able to protect her.
あんな奴らに連れて行かせちゃダメだよ。絶対助けないと。
そうだな。それについては同意だ。だがあれほど必死に探していたんだ。今頃相当厳重な監視下に置かれているはずだ。
I know, Bishop should have warned us about this or something.
胸くそ悪いな。
サリー、あんなの許せないよ。絶対助けに行こ
う。ですが、どこへ？
連中もバカではない。あの城には連れて帰ってはいないだろうな。サリー、ルガナの監視カメラの履歴は見られるか？
う。オッケー。
Sally swiftly launched an investigation. She pulled up footage of Crystal being captured and of people shoving the girl into a fully black car. However, in the middle of Sally's chase, she lost track of the car.
途中で手がかりがなくなってる。イタリアの方角だってのは分かったんだけど。
早速お得意の隠蔽工作をしてるってことか。随分と動きが早いな。
あちらにもクラッカーがいるのだろう。急がないと手がかりを失うぞ。ひとまずイタリアへ。
His speech was interrupted by everyone's phone ringing at once. Everyone's phone's ringing all at once. Oh, we're going to Italy, huh?
何この番号。
Oh, no, is there another character? Oh, no.
同じ場所からかかってきているように見えますが。
Was a CM?
そんなことできるの？
なんで？サリー、セキュリティ対策万全にしてるはずなのに。お姉ちゃん、怖いよ。
ハミエル、出られるか？
ああ。
Hamil, as the most skilled conversationalist of all of us, took the plunge and answered the call. What flowed out of the speaker was an eerie, heavily edited voice.
やあやあ、犯罪者諸君。少女一人を守りきれずにするドライブはどんな気分だい？
誰だ、あんたは。
僕はコンサートマスター。クラウンの幹部だとでも言えばわかるかな。
Oh, Concertmaster. We did hear about him very briefly before. Crown was contacting us. Everyone's expression turned grim. Concertmaster. I'd overheard that name in Crown's castle.
君たちはよくやってくれたよ。ハイリガーの声を取り戻した。これで僕らは子守からのおさらばさ。
おさらばってまさか。
僕 モナークから君たちへ指令が下った。コロナダルジェントを手に入れよ。さもなくば、ハイリガーを火炙りにする。とね。
そんな。
君たちに与えられた猶予は6時間。つまり、今日の午後1時までだ。さあ、急いだ方がいいよ。間に合わなければ用済みになったハイリガーは、その身を神に捧げるだろう。オルレアンの乙女のようにね。無事にコロナダルジェントを手に入れたら、ベネチアへ来るように。本物を持って来られたら、用済みとなったハイリガーと交換してあげよう。コロナダルジェントの愛花は、自分たちで調べてよ。健闘を祈っているよ。
The call cut off. I could only stand there in shock. Just because Crystal had found her voice again, she had to suffer such atrocities. They might even kill her.
なんだよ交換って。人を何だと思ってるんだよ。物扱いするなんて絶対許せないよ、こんなの。
監禁してたくせに用がなくなったら殺すなんて許せません。絶対にクリステルを助け出しましょう。
罠かもしんねえけどな。
それでも無視はできねえだろ。
そうだな。他に手がかりもない。行くしかないな。
調べたところ、コローナダルジェントの保管場所はミラノのドゥオーモ広場近くの博物館のようですね。
サリ、その博物館の内部の緑図は調べられる？
I know, back to Milan.
任せて、すぐに調べるから。とにかく早くミラノへ行こう。
ああ、行くぞ。
We sped down morning sunlit roads. We were leaving Switzerland for Italy. All the while, I prayed that I would see Crystal smile again. Italy, August 1st, Milan, 2028, 8:59 Tuesday, Piazza del Duomo. By the time we arrived in Milan, there were crowds on the street livening up the city. We walked as fast as we could through the people coming and going, making our way to the museum.
しかしまさか王冠なんかを盗めと言われるとはな。
The Corona di Argento. It was apparently one of the oldest crowns in Europe. Being a symbol of royal authority in medieval Europe, it was a valuable historical artifact. Needless to say, stealing it would be a major crime.
何に使うんでしょうね。
んなことは興味ねえ。
問題はどう取るかだ。すでに開館してしまっている。
ラミー君ならちゃっちゃと入って取ってこられないの？
無茶言うなよ。もう一般客も中に入ってんだろ。展示中の王冠を盗むなんて泥棒っていうか普通に強盗だから。
That was the problem. When we looked over the floor plans, we learned that the Corona di Argento was on display in the deepest exhibition room of the museum.
展示中の王冠を盗み出すとなると、かなり強引な手段を用いることになりそうですね。
保管庫にでも置かれているのであれば、裏口から侵入するという手もあったが、それも無理だろうな。
ベネツィアまではどんなに車を飛ばしても2時間半はかかる。時間がね
え。ですが、正面から行っても捕まりますよね。作戦はどうしますか？
Everyone frowned, their spirits crumpling. That was when I spoke up. Okay.
大事なことは忘れないようにね。これで OK？
Let's see. Let's break in from the front. That seemed terrible. There's no time for a plan. Also, it doesn't seem like something that she would consider. Let's consider our options.
まずは作戦を考えましょう。
Raiding the museum without even a rough idea of what we'd do was too dangerous. It was practically suicide.
この限られた時間では大した作戦も立てられないだろうが、 無策というのは確かに不安だな。
そうですね。全くの指針がないというのはさすがにいざという時に困りますからね。
Okay, got a point
だか
for
らってそんな都合のいい作戦なんて思いつくか？
正直言って厳しいと思います。だから作戦はその都度考えることになるかと。
その都度。それはどういうことだ？
私が監視カメラの映像を見ながらインカムを通して皆さんに指示を出します。
Since we didn't have time to slowly smooth out a thorough plan, this was the only method available.
つまり状況に合わせてあなたがその場で作戦を立てるということですか？
はい、そうなります。
Oh, okay. It's going to be a security camera portion of the game again. Apprehension eating away at me, I couldn't deny it. Nevertheless, this was the only plan I could think of right now.
やれやれ。大胆なことを言ってくれるじゃないか。
なるほどな。確かにこの状況では臨機応変に対応した方がいいだろうが、君の負担は相当なものだぞ。本当に任せて大丈夫か？
はい、皆さんのことを信じてますから大丈夫です。
なら決まりだな。
はい、急ぎですし、それしかなさそうですね。
サリーはお姉ちゃんを信じるよ。
ああ、派手にやってやろうぜ。
Everyone gave me a dependable smile. We were going to do everything we could to rescue Crystal. Thus began our mission to steal the Corona d'Argento. Or d'Argento. D'Argento? I don't know if you're supposed to roll your R on that one or not. 20 minutes later, we had all arrived at our outpost with earpieces ready. Gib and I were standing by in the cabriolet, which we parked along a road where we had a view of the museum entrance. Everyone else had purchased tickets and had snuck in, mingling with normal visitors. Near the entrance, I could see Sally's pink outfit. Due to the circumstances of the museum's network, Sally needed to infiltrate the building as well. Just like I'd said to the others earlier, I hadn't decided on a detailed plan. At most, all I'd managed was to assign roles. After Ram stole the crown, Ash would help him escape to safety on the bike. Our first step started with Sally hacking the museum network from within and seizing control of the security cameras.
サリー、大丈夫？
うん、博物館の無線 LAN からネットワークに侵入できたよ。今、監視カメラの映像を出すね。
監視カメラの映像が映りました。まずは皆さんの状況を教えてください。
サリーがいるのは博物館のエントランスだよ。入ってすぐのところだから、お姉ちゃんとパパさんもバッチリ見えるよ。
俺がいるのは中央にある庭園だ。博物館のすべての展示室に出入りできるらしい。ここからだと王冠も表に留めてるカブリオレも見える。
僕がいるのは建物右側にある赤のギャラリーという展示室です。隣の部屋に展示されている王冠も確認できます。
こっちは緑のギャラリーとかいう左側の展示エリアだ。ここからも王冠が見えるぜ。あと不審なガキもついでにな。
ちょっと、不審なガキって僕のこと？ここが一番奥にあるメインホール、白のギャラリーだね。お目当ての王冠は部屋の中央に展示されてるよ。
警備員はそれぞれの展示エリアに1人か2人ってところだな。それほど厳重な警備じゃなくて助かったぜ。
クラウンが狙う宝物が展示されているにしては随分拍子抜けという気もしますね。
昼間の博物館なんてそんなもんだよ。それでどう攻めるの？時間もないし、いきなり奪って逃げるとか。
ベネツィアまでの移動時間を考えると、王冠の入手に使える時間は15分ほどしかないと思う。あまり乱暴なことはしたくないけど。
We didn't have the luxury of choice in our situation. What we were about to do was thievery. No, an outright robbery in broad daylight.
ラミー君、 王冠の警備はどんな感じ？
警備員が2人部屋の出入り口に立っている。当たり前だけど王冠はガラスケースで覆われてるよ。普通に盗難防止のセキュリティが仕掛けられていると思う。
カメラを王冠にズームするね。
Sally controlled the security camera remotely. The Corona d'Argento filled the footage of the main hall's camera. I could see a simple time-worn crown exhibited within a robust glass case.
サリー、王冠の警備システムの詳細はわかる？
やっぱり警報システムは完全に独立回線になってるっぽくて、この無線 LAN からじゃアクセスできないみたいだね。
それは厄介ですね。どんな防犯装置が仕掛けられているのかわからないのでは作戦を立てようもありません。
事務用のパソコンでもいいから、この建物のローカルネットにつながってる PC があれば、それを踏み台にして警備システムに潜り込めるんだけど。
Okay, so she has to get the camera number 3.
多分受付の隣の扉の先が事務室だと思う。入り口のところに警備員のおじさんがいるけどね。
事務室に忍び込むつもりか。さすがにバレるだろ。
こっそり入らなきゃいいんだよ。別に警備室に入れてくれって話でもないし、それっぽい理由があれば入れてくれるんじゃないか。
A convincing reason. What would be good? Okay, well, this will be the... I think we have a lot of choices on this one. Say you picked up lost property. Say you saw someone suspicious. Say you're feeling ill. Oh, okay, it's only 3 choices. We'll try lost property.
落とし物を拾ったというのはどうですか？
エントランスに受付カウンターがあったから、そっちへ行けと言われるだろうな。
Okay. Whatever. I won't know I mean, these are really guessing. I'm feeling ill.
サリーの具合が悪いので休ませてほしいというのはどうでしょう？それだったら事務室で休ませてもらえるかもしれませんし。
へえ、随分と悪知恵が働くじゃないか。人を騙すのに慣れてきたか？
そんなんじゃありませんから。
なるほど、仮病作戦ですか。確かに具合が悪いと言われてはいくら警備員でも無下にはできないでしょ
そうだな。それでやってみよう。サリー一人では怪しまれる恐れもある。警備員の対応はハミエルに任せる。
パパさん、オッケーだよ。サリーのアカデミー賞級の演技で警備のおじさんもイチコロだよ。
やれやれ。こいつは一人でやるよりも骨が折れそうだな。じゃ、始めるぜ。
Hamiel and Sally met up at the entrance before going up to the guard.
ちょっとすみません。急に妹の体調が悪くなってしまって、どこか静かなところで休ませてもらえませんか？
A gentle, good-natured voice came through my earpiece. It was hard to believe that it was Hamiel. Of course, I could hear how the guard reacted.
お兄ちゃん、マリー、死ぬの？あ、短い人生だったな。
Oh, of course, she's a terrible actress.
大丈夫だからしっかりするんだ。静かなところでお薬を飲んで休めばすぐに良くなるから。おとなしく黙っているんだ。というかもう喋るな。あんた名前はロベルトか。なあロベルト、こんな話を他人のあんたにするのはどうかと思うんだが、実は妹はもうあまり長くないんだよ。だから生きているうちにコローナ・ダルジェントをどうしても見せてやりたくてスペインから来たんだが、でもどうやら無理がたたっちまったらしい。残念だけど諦めて帰ることに。いいのかい？あんたいい人だなロベルト。 感謝するよ。それじゃお言葉に甘えさせてもらうよ。さあマリ、奥の事務室のソファーで休ませてもらえるよ。
本当、お兄ちゃん。マリー、助かるの。助かるのね。ああ、世界がこんなにも美しいなんて知らなかった。
ああ、もう少しの辛抱だからおとなしくしててくれよ。頼むから。事務室に入った。事務員が2人いるだけだ。パーテーションがあるから向こうからこっちは見えない。
お兄ちゃん、このケーブルをどのパソコンでもいいからつないできて。お願い。
Sally must have taken a liking to the performance of a ill little sister, because she gave directions to Hamiel in a frail voice. After a few minutes of waiting,
ネットワークに侵入完了。警備システムに入ったよ。
サリー、パソコンなんか使っててジムの人に怪しまれてない？
ジムのお姉さんはハミー君がナンパ中で、病気の妹のことなんて眼中にないって感じだよ。
そう。
さすがはハミエル君。こういう時は頼りになりますね。
だからってのんびりしてらんねえ。さっさと始めようぜ。
はい。サリー、王冠の警備システムについて何か分かった？
現状を記録するぞ。
okay, well, we're almost at the hour, so why don't we stop it here? This is meowmurai. You've been watching Despera Drops running on Nintendo Switch 2. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream. And yeah, have a good night, Topaz.